Alright, so... Hi. Hello. My name is Michael. Michael Gardner. I figured I might as well just give you my name now so things in the future aren't confusing. I'm going to tell you something, and then I want you to listen to something that I found a few weeks ago. Forgive me, I'm a bit under the weather, so... Anyway. A few weeks ago, I was going through some old stuff. Old boxes, books. Just throwing away old trash and old junk and just stuff that was taking up space that we didn't need anymore. When I found a book, or what I thought was a book. I mean, it is a book, but it just seemed out of place, and it was bound shut with a latch, and the texture of the leather didn't seem right. But the main thing that struck me was that it had the initials M on it. And no one that I know of in my extended family and in my immediate family has those initials. My mother-in-law, her first initial's P. Amanda's, well, hers is A. Her father's is R. Her brother's is K. Her oldest brother's is an R. And her sister's is a P. So it didn't make any sense for there to be this leather-bound diary with the initials M on it. So I brought it in the back room. And like I said, forgive me, I may clear my throat or cough. I have a cold that I'm getting over. But I brought the book in the back room, and I got my tools, and I used a little knowledge I had of locks, and I sat there for probably 15 minutes to half an hour until finally I heard a click. It opened. And I was right, it was a diary, but what was weird was how thin the pages were, and they used pencil as opposed to pen. And what struck me odd was that they wrote front to back on a couple of the pages, but there were 3 things in there that sent a chill down my spine. One of the objects was a set of pictures. There's 3 pictures. The other was a tied lock of hair. And the third I'm actually going to explain. We'll get back to the other 2 objects after the events that are going to unfold. That last object didn't seem right. It stood out amongst everything else about this object. It stood out from everything else about this diary, about the hair, about the pictures. It just stood out. It didn't make any sense. It was a micro SD card. Now, at first I thought maybe, okay, it was one of ours, and it fell on this thing and got stuck. But it didn't. Because it was purposely wedged in the book. And I knew this because between the two pages that it was wedged in, there was an indentation where it was sitting at. And it had to have been sitting there for years. At least 6 months. So it was in there, and it was in there good. And that was the one thing that struck me odd. Now, this was an older micro SD card. I'd say probably Gen 2, Gen 3 for micro SD cards. So roughly right around the time that they first came out. So it didn't make any sense for this thing to be in there. What you're about to hear next is everything that was on that SD card. I had an adapter for it. I always have an adapter for micro SD cards just in case, because my fiance's phone uses one. I think everyone who has a smartphone nowadays has a micro SD card, so it's a good thing to have an adapter for those. So I plugged the micro SD card in the adapter and it fit perfectly. Put it in the computer. And there were 6 audio files. They weren't that long, but there were 6 audio files. And the weird thing is, was the days that they were dated for. At the beginning of each audio file is a somewhat monotone robotic voice. I say robotic because it doesn't sound human, but it doesn't sound like a computer. It doesn't sound like something a machine would say. It's too precise with the date, but then again, it doesn't sound human either. Pay attention to the dates, because that's what's most striking about this. And remember, like I said, this SD card was in this book for a while. To the point where it left indentations in the paper. And then I'll tell you something more shocking about this book. Alright, I've gone on long enough. Before I play the audio files, I'm going to tell you this right now, as a word of warning. If you find something, no matter what it is, and something about it seems odd and out of place, don't let your curiosity get the better of you. Because things like this can happen. I'm titling this story Madman. And you'll understand why in a minute.
Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. Come back next time for more. Bye-bye.